there's a whole bunch of issues here. One of, if the guy grows corn on corn, and you guys don't know a lot about corn on corn, but there's an insect called a corn rootworm. And the female, well, the beetle will chew on the silks of the corn, and then the female will drop to the ground and lay her eggs at the base of the corn plant, and if you plant corn again the next year, they'll eat out the roots. And so the number one or number two insecticide use in the United States historically has been corn rootworm control. The other one is for controlling boll weevils and cotton. Okay. So this field, we had several fields when we started that were corn on corn. We had 3 of them, continuous corn on corn, and this one we designated to try to not use insecticide on it, to try to control that insect some other way. And we did a bunch of things with fertilizer placement. We did some things with beneficial nematodes that we introduced that we don't know if they're live or not, but when Bt corn come out, the Bt thing, there's 2 kinds of Bt. One is to control the corn borer, which is a transient type insect that comes in from the neighbors and you can't do anything about. And the other one is to control the corn rootworm larvae when they try to eat on the roots. And that one you can control with crop rotation if you do it right. But we thought, okay, we'll try that one, and we tried it here, and we had no benefit to having the Bt. In other words, we had something that was controlling our corn rootworm. We did a very intensive study. Over the years, we did a lot of different things. 4 years ago, we started a very intensive study where we actually, one of the things you had to establish is that you had the insects there. So we planted 1,000 corn rootworm eggs per foot a row in areas out here, and then we monitored what was happening to them as they hatched and corn developed. And part of that involved taking soil cores and putting them in Berlese funnels and chasing all the insects out of those soil cores into alcohol. And then the predators that were in there got shipped down to the university. They pulled their stomachs out and ran DNA analysis to see what they're eating. And the bottom line is we have about, they tell me, 2 billion predators per acre here that are eating our harmful insects. And we have not used an insecticide on the farm as a whole, in this part of the farm, these 3 quarters, in over 10 years. We have had to use some border sprays when the grasshoppers come from the neighbors. We've had to buy some corn that had seed treatment on it because you couldn't get it without seed treatment. We think last year that killed a bunch of our predators, so we have a study in that part of the field where we're looking at corn seed that has absolutely nothing on it versus corn seed that has a full dose on it. And they're in big strips out there. There's multiple strips, but I can't see the difference when I drive by. So, but when the corn rootworms start attacking, we might see differences. The thing we're doing here is the other issue, and we do have the different Bt combinations here. So that's one of the things we do is we got Bt rootworm, Bt corn borer, we got the stack, and we got the naked genetics here. But your big energy input is nitrogen fertilizer. You talk about trying to get energy out of your system. Diesel fuel isn't your big guy. 150 pounds the acre of nitrogen is equivalent to 30 gallons of diesel fuel in terms of energy. It's a huge number. And we know that if we do low disturbance no-till, the mycorrhizae will take the nitrogen from a legume and give it to a non-legume. And that's one of the principles of doing cover crops is you should have both legumes and non-legumes there because the non-legume will enslave the legume and make it work harder. Otherwise it'll just make enough for it. So this spring, I seeded alfalfa at about 2 or 3 pounds the acre in this field early this spring. This is the start of an experiment.
What do you call early around here, like roughly what date?
It would have been the end of March. And then we planted corn here like the first part of May, first couple days of May. And corn doesn't care about, if it can get to V6, which this is about V8, but if it's at V6, prior to that it doesn't like neighbors. Once it gets about to V8, V6 to V8, it doesn't care how many neighbors it got, it just ignores them and away it goes, right? So our idea here is once we have the alfalfa established, which it is, I'm kind of impressed actually with how good a stand the alfalfa I got. That's that good little blue drill we got from Argentina. But what we're going to do is this fall, when the corn dies, hopefully the alfalfa is still alive and it'll get some time to grow in the fall. It'll take off and do some growing in the spring. We're going to mow it or flail it, whatever, before we plant the corn, or probably plant the corn and then flail down the alfalfa, and then we can suppress the alfalfa with bromoxynil, Bucktrill, and not hurt the corn. And so we can suppress the alfalfa but not kill it, is the plan. And then once the corn's big enough, let the alfalfa come through so it gets some regrowth like here, and about the time the corn is going to canopy over. The idea then is to try to get rid of the nitrogen. Now the other thing that it's doing, and one of the big problems in crop rotations, is when you did wheat summerfell. How many of you guys did wheat summerfell at one time? Yeah, see? And I thought it was only Montana that had this problem, but you get saline seep because you're not efficiently using the water and it's getting deep, and then you have nothing to bring it back up again. Okay? And that's a big problem in Australia. They have this problem with salinity and whatever because the water gets below their crop because you just have this little dinky root system out there. Even under irrigation here, this corn doesn't go as deep as those native grasses. Those native grasses will put roots down 10, 12 feet, and as will alfalfa. So we think the alfalfa is going to be bringing the lime and stuff back up. So really what we're looking at is using the alfalfa as a perennial cover crop. And I saw an example of this in Australia called pasture cropping, where they were using the tall grass prairie plants like we have, and then when they go dormant in the wintertime, they grow their wheat and canola and whatever, and then let them come back next summer. Now, I don't know what this means to Alberta, but you have to figure out some way of going down and grabbing them nutrients that are getting away from you and bringing them back to the surface of your soil. And if you don't do that, you're going to end up having to start liming and having pH drop and those kind of things. And eventually, if you do it for 300 or 400 years, you'll have a desert. It's just that simple. I mean, we've only farmed here for 100 years or less, and we've already degraded the heck out of things. And if we keep doing that, we're going to really have a mess. So this is hopefully a way to start looking at reclaiming it. One of the things that our ancestors did is they would put this ground back into perennials. They put it into alfalfa or back into grass for 6 or 7 years and rejuvenate it, pull up those deep nutrients, and kind of hit the restart button, so to speak, and then come back in and start annual cropping again. So anyway, that's what we're trying to do here. It's kind of, this is Roundup Ready alfalfa, which makes it a bit of an easier trick. If we start getting backed into a corner someplace, we can put Roundup Ready corn and Roundup Ready alfalfa in there. And
I'd love to do that again.
I don't think I have to do the Roundup Ready to make it work. I think I can make it work without the Roundup Ready. But it's going to be interesting.
Conventional alfalfa, I don't think, unless you hit it with a really high rate, that it actually kill the alfalfa anyways. Like if you had a conventional alfalfa,
I'd use Bucktrill. All I'm planning on using on this is Bucktrill. And stuff that I'm not planning on doing it with Roundup. planning on doing it without Roundup. But it is a Roundup ready alfalfa, and since most of the Bt choices in this half of the field, on that half of the field, they're not Roundup ready corn. But here, if you're going to do the Bt choice thing, you've got to have Roundup ready corn. So I've got the Bt choices. You can't get Bt stuff without Roundup ready. So I've got the Roundup ready Bt things here that are ready alfalfa.
How much nitrogen you put down, any at all?
So far this year, right here we missed the button. See that? I'm searching for the button and I find it about right there. But it's kind of a nice thing to have. We put down about 50 pounds of actual in with the seeder, and then we put about 60 pounds of actual in on through the irrigator. So that's where we're at right now.
So you're hoping to replace it there again?
I don't know. When we start next year, not this year, but next year, when I start next year, then I'll put nitrogen rates in here. Different rates of nitrogen, and then start seeing where I get response.
Will this rotation work outside of irrigation?
Not in this part of South Dakota, no. But it would work this way in Iowa and Illinois and Ohio. The Corn Belt. Not going to work dryland Alberta either. But remember, I was speaking at a corn school when I met Ruth. See, so I know you guys can grow corn.
Well, driving up here, we see corn that I don't know how it's surviving.
Yeah, but if you guys are getting more heat, and the way some of that corn looks, there's not going to be nothing there.
And we drove by some that was at a 2-leaf stage and just patchy and ugly.
Yeah, you came from Rapid City.
Yeah.
See, if you went back north, you'd see pretty good corn.
Yeah, they had a lot of rain west River, South Dakota the last 2 years, and a lot of guys here think now they can grow corn, but now they can get...
It's not bad.
There's corn growing, I mean, in amongst the packs of hills that are burned up. It was horrible.